Hi, welcome to another episode of Mike Hunt's Coins. Today I'm going to be talking about this 1931S Buffalo nickel that I cherry-picked off eBay. I bought it about a week ago, and I think from the images that this is a double die reverse, a DDR, and it's a DDR-001. And I'm going to show you the coin. It's just a stunner of a coin. It's in a high mint state condition, so it's in a PCGS holder, designated mint state 65. So we can go back to the coin. We can look at the fields. They're just in amazing shape. The die itself was worn, so you can see some of these wear marks on the die, especially as we move over, and you can see the wear marks in the field, and it creates these bumps in the field. And I think those are just stunning on a high mint state coin because they really catch the light, and it gives it this really beautiful quality. And when you're looking at the coin, here's the reverse. And so we're going to actually look at this and look and see what I was seeing. But even from this distance, you can see that this lettering is thick. So if we get into it a little deeper, you can see that United States of America is thickened, which is a hallmark of this double die of DDR-01 in a 1931S Buffalo nickel. So you can see the lettering's thickened. You can see these separators, which are supposed to be circular, are actually oval and a bit elongate. And so you can kind of get a sense of what happened in the striking process that created this. So you can get kind of a directionality on the double die. This one's flowing towards the rim, which is going to tell us something about what kind of double die it is. So there's a very specific kind of double die that it's a type 6 that has this thickened lettering and flows towards the rim. But this is like Flintstones lettering, right? It looks like you're cooking baked goods and they kind of ran into each other in the oven. They're just these beautiful thickened letters. If we get into the motto, you can really see it here, kind of over the P, that's elongate towards the rim, the R, the B. You could see this wild twist in the N and the U, and these are just very characteristic signs. There's another element of this. So there's a really good die marker in order to be able to kind of nail this down. And it's over in the buffalo's head. And it's this die break here. And so it actually goes from the buffalo's head all the way into the U. You can see that die break really clearly. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like in Variety Vista. So in Variety Vista, there's 3 different 1931S DDRs. There's DDR-001, which has the thickened lettering. There's 002, which has this kind of doubling that's behind the legs of the buffaloes where you can see it. And then there's DDR-3, where you can actually see that there's splits in the lettering. This is actually a triple die reverse, not a double die reverse. It's a TDR, and so you can. It's a really interesting. It's a really interesting specimen also. But let's get into this DDR1, and there you can see it. Right, you can see the thickened lettering. You can see how those separators are elongate, right, and especially here. I mean, look at that. There's that. Flintstones lettering, extended, dough running into each other. Look, that's characteristic of this kind of type 6 DDR. If we look at E pluribus unum, you can see the extended P, the extended R, the twisting of the N and the U. If we kind of get into it here, even in a little bit higher magnification, you can again see that extended lettering. The twisted U. The rest of the lettering around the rim, as is characteristic with a type 6 double die, has that real thick character to it. You can look at the position of the mint mark, and really that's just exactly what we're seeing here. We see that also with the 5 cents, and the position of the mint mark is in exactly the right place for this die. And then kind of the icing on the cake, right? There's that die crack that goes from the buffalo's head up into that U of United States of America. And again, we could see the die crack there. So this is a DDR-001, right? And so if we go ahead and look at sort of what I paid for it, right? And try to understand what was a good price. So $250. If we go over to the PCGS site for just a regular 1931S, if they've graded a coin and they've graded it as MS65, their price guide suggests that it's worth $425. But if you look, there's been a significant number of auctions in last year, in August of last year, that would suggest that maybe that's not the price that people are paying in the market. But is it worth it as a DDR? And so if we go over to Annex, we can look and see what happened in terms of its relative rating from a company that does grade it. PCGS doesn't grade this particular double die reverse. They grade the DDR2 and the DDR3. Both of those are present in the reference that PCGS uses in order to be able to determine which buffalo nickels to grade. And that's in a earlier, I think it's the Cherry Picker's Guide, and it's the I think it's the 4th or 5th edition is what they're using predominantly. Anyway, so neither PCGS or NGC will annotate this particular double die. So if you want it attributed, you got to send it into Annex. And so you can look at Annex and see what the population is, and see what the grading is for this date. So we'll go to uncirculated coins. Here's this DDR-1 1931S, and you can see that there's been 19 of these graded, and the highest grade that one has received so far is an MS65, right? And so if we did send this into Annex and it did cross over as an MS65, then it would be a top pop, right? It would be one of two, and the top grade for that coin. So that seems like it's worth it, and may have some interesting value. It's hard to find these online. There wasn't a reference that I could find in eBay in terms of what people are paying for an MS65 range DDR1, but there is kind of something interesting about this. So if we go to PCGS and we look at just some images of the coins that they've graded for just standard 1931S buffalo nickels, what you can see is that my coin isn't a top pop, right? And what's happened is PCGS has graded standard 1931S buffalo nickels that are DDR1s, but they're not designated as that because they don't attribute that variety in their attribution service. And so here you can see just an image off of PCGS. In this date, it's graded kind of the top pop for this date. So it's MS67 according to PCGS. And if we look, there it is, right? This is a DDR1. You can see the elongate lettering. You can see the die crack in the buffalo nickel. And so this is kind of an interesting problem, and I really could use your help on this, and I'd love to hear your input in the comments. I'd like to send this out for attribution as opposed to just keeping it in a holder where that attribution hasn't been made by an expert service. And so there's a couple of different choices here. I can send it off to Annex, and it would be a top pop, an MS65, at least for now, at Annex, unless somebody starts And so unless somebody submits a grade that's higher, and we know that they're out there because they're graded in PCGS holders, and so I'm really attracted by that idea, right? To have it in an annex holder, but also have it be top pop. The flip side of that is to go ahead and keep it in the PCGS holder, and then go to Variety Slabbing Service. And so what they'll do is they'll take any coin in a holder that has already been graded, and they'll do your attribution for you. So this is an expert service. It's on a lot of different coins, and if you look at it, they'll put this plate on the back of a PCGS holder, and it'll have the designation for what this coin is after they've done the work to look it over. And so what do you think? What are your comments? What do you think I should do? Maybe the comment is just keep it as it is. I'm just a collector. It's just going to go into my collection. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to just get in a little deeper for people kind of interested in this, in sort of in terms of how this kind of doubling happens. So this is called a Class 6 double die. That's the kind of double die where you get that really thick lettering, but there's not splits. And it's called a distended hub doubling is a Class 6. And so there's a bit of controversy about how this might happen. It was thought to happen based on the hub kind of getting older, and as it was being used to create the working die. But I think that nowadays that's thought not to be the case. And what's thought to be the case now is that the working die is getting annealed, so it gets heated up, so that'll take on the features from the hub in a more facilitated way. And what's thought to happen here is there's something that went wrong with the annealing process. And so when the hubbing is done, it causes things to go a little bit too deep, and when the working die is re-annealed, you get kind of a flow of metal, and that's what causes this extended the extension of these letters. So the die gets re-annealed, it gets hubbed again, and in the second hubbing it could be a little bit offset, and it's not as deep as the first hubbing, and so you don't really see that impression coming through as splits in the doubling, and you just get this kind of widened lettering in the coin. They're pretty straightforward to find. You can see them in a lot of different coins, and they're beautiful double dies. And again, this shows you kind of what PCGS will grade with these buffalo nickels. So it's got to be in the Cherry Picker's Guide, 4th or 5th edition, and this particular buffalo nickel isn't in the Cherry Picker's Guide yet. It may be in the future, and so this could change. Again, if you're looking for references, and you go to the other reference site, Kanika's site, and you look up this 31S DDR-001, it's listed, so you can see the description is correct with this extra thickness on United States of America and the motto. It's interesting though, they have the wrong picture up. So they actually have the picture up from DDR3. So if we go over to DDR3, and that's the one where there's kind of a triple spread on the motto that I was telling you about. That's actually the image of the triple spread from DDR3, and so they have that unfortunately on DDR1. I don't know if that has something to do with why it's really hard to find this online. Maybe people don't know that this is actually a bona fide DDR unless they're going to Variety Vista. And so I think it's a really interesting coin, and I'm excited to get it. And so thank you very much for listening.